phase you are now of the whole story? You could say you're almost in the end?
Well, I'm certainly, I mean, because I have to work, I'll probably be spending about, 2 more weeks here, but, I mean, there's so much done compared to, the way it was when I came in. When I came in, the place was full of junk. 2 elderly alcoholics, I was told, lived here. And, I mean, the place smelled when you walked in. And we had 2 loads of debris, of a whole 2 truckloads of junk was taken out of here before I could even start. I took down walls. I took down brick walls. I took down walls and exposed brick. I took down a whole wall in the bedroom and made one long 6x18 room out of 2 small 6x9 rooms. Had to actually put up new walls. A lot of the walls were crumbling, put up plasterboard. I really love the space. I mean, I love the large living room, which is, I mean, it's large for the Lower East Side. It's large for $140 a month. That's what I'm going to be paying. And I like the kitchen. I mean, the kitchen will be like a kind of eat-in kitchen that'll be very homey, Hamisher. And the bedroom's okay, and it's going to be a nice apartment. But what people have told me when they've come in, when they've seen it, they've said that the place isn't worth more than $100 a month.
The way it was?
Well, no, with the amount of work that I have to put into it, which really pisses me off. And I talked to the landlord about it. I found out that he had offered this to the guy next door for $50 a month if he would move in here and fix it up, and then he could rent his apartment for $160. And
why you accept for 140?
Well, to me it seemed like a good deal to get 3 decent-sized rooms for $140, and I didn't have any idea how much work was going to go into this place.
And how do you feel now?
Oh, I'm so pissed at the amount. I really am.
Did you know about the $50 before you made the arrangement with him? I mean, could you argue with him?
No. I didn't know about the $50. Jesus, if I'd known about that $50.
And what the arrangement was? I mean, you could stay without paying for a month and do the job.
No, what the arrangement was that he bought all of the materials and I had to do all the work. That was the arrangement.
But you still had to pay the first month.
He let me have 2 weeks free, out of the goodness of his heart. It's really incredible. He's this young, he looks like he's about 27, 28-year-old punk, who owns 4 or 5 buildings now. He's just getting started, and he works 7 days a week, poor fellow. And his wife has to work right now because they don't have enough money. It sounds like a Rockefeller, I had a Rockefeller in my taxi cab once, and he was saying, I'm working my way up. He says, I only make $20,000 a year right now. I said, yeah, but how much is your inheritance? He said, oh, well, my inheritance. I said, my inheritance is in 1 hour what I make on my job in a year. $20,000 an hour. And then so Peter says to me, he comes, the landlord, he comes crying to me. And he says, look, I don't have any money. I work 7 days a week. He says, sure, I'm going to be rich, but not now. My wife supports me now.
And what's your situation now?
That's a very unhappy story. I'm afraid I wasn't cut out to be a cab driver. I really, I'm supposed to be working 5 days a week, but I get out there on the road and I get so depressed or angry. I either get furious and I feel like bumping into one of the other cars, one of those other sons of bitches that comes and swerves in front of me. Or I get depressed and I say, I'm not going to get into this rat race, I'm not going to become as vicious and savage as all the rest of them. Crash. Oh, not so bad. Yeah.
This is not plaster, it's cement.
Yeah. See, everybody, you can do it too. You know, I was talking to one of my customers in the cab, and every customer I have practically asks me, do I like driving, and aren't I afraid, you know, being a woman. I tell them, which is true, that I'm not afraid of the customers who get in the car, I'm afraid of the other cab drivers. And the cab driving business is sort of a metaphor for what living in New York, what it means to live in New York. You know, you have to become, in order to get up and down the streets, you have to either become as vicious and competitive as all of the others, or you lose out, or you don't do your job. So I decided I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to get that way. And as a result, I haven't made as much money as a lot of the cab drivers. About the second week that I was working, I was going across 18th Street, and I saw two yellow cabs smashed up against a wall on the street, on the sidewalk. And I could just imagine the picture, you know, these two people, these two cab drivers saw this one customer, and they both started speeding toward the customer. And what happens is that when they get into that kind of a thing, they really don't watch. They say, if I keep going, the other person's going to stop. You know, they don't watch to stop at the last minute. They kind of bank on that the other person's going to stop, and I guess both of them were playing the same game, and neither of them stopped. This is how he told me to do it. Whoops. This hole right there, I am now going to make it disappear. All right, this corner is over. Finished. First coat. New York has changed tremendously in the 18 years that I've been here, and everything that it was then in terms of people being very alienated, it being very difficult to find a space for yourself is even more so now. But I mean, there was also the fact that at 18, I was in love with New York. I had a romance with New York. And now I see it. I mean, I see the danger, I think the real danger in what New York is. The epitome of urban living, is the extreme to which urban living can go in its disorganization and its lack of caring for the people who, the inhabitants of the city, the alienation that most people feel. It both offers, in a certain way, it offers the best that that America, that the American way can offer, you know, which is all has to do with competitiveness, with getting something for yourself at the expense of other people. And New York is the center for that, both financially, artistically, theatrically, almost any way. This is the Big Apple, the big city. And I think it's a very bad way to live. I think most people who live here pay a terrible price, even those of us who survive and survive fairly well. See what happens. Emma! Here, Emma. Come here, come here. Over here. Come here, get in the picture. I want you in the picture. Come here. Come here, Em. Come on, come here. Thought you were gonna get fed, didn't you? That's why you came so fast.
What are you doing here?
I'm sorting out all my books. I'm leaving all my books on women, psychic phenomena, being Jewish, music, and theater. And I'm throwing out all my books on the left.
Being involved in the theater has made you less obsessed with the written word. I mean, is that why that's...
I mean, for me, theater is not only acting, but theater is a form of ritual, and that women, we need rituals. We need ways to define our new selves, to exorcise the old self. And words, I mean, originally had a magical meaning and could do it, but I mean, all of the arts, poetry, music, dance, theater, all came from religious, they all had religious origins. They all came out of religious ritual. And those things were cut off as society, you know, developed and became more technological, and became the religious and the secular became separate. It's a whole part of the way in which human beings have segmented their lives, have categorized our lives, and just one of those is taking art, our creative, our need for rhythm, our need for a kind of rhythmical expression of our feelings, and putting that in a separate place for our lives. And that I think that theater is one of the best ways now to regain that. Women's liberation at its best is deeply spiritual to me, you know, deeply religious. And the music and the art and the theater that's being created by women that comes from that depth is also deeply spiritual. And theater is a form that can include all women in it. I mean, the kind of theater that I'd like to do is theater in which women can participate at different times within the theater piece. It starts from the assumption that whatever is healing for women lies deep within each of us, and in exploring our own selves, as we go more deeply, the deeper we go, the more we're going to touch on that healing power.
What healing power?
What healing power? I mean, our own strength, our own centers, which has been covered up for 5,000 years, and which a very few women are beginning to touch on. I know that there are a few people, that there are certain people, especially people who are experts, you know, quote unquote, on art and theater, who said, well, that's not theater because it's political, or because it's too personal, or because it's too direct. They have a very narrow, decadent definition of theater, and they can't, there's no room for something that's as real. I mean, a lot of people can't stand anything that's too real, you know. I mean, it's too frightening because it threatens their entire life. And, you know, I think that there are women, I mean, that's why I want to do theater primarily with women, because I know women are ready, you know, for that. I mean, they're ready to explode with all of this new understanding, these new feelings, and they want something. They want a culture that will explode with them.
That's you?
Uh-huh.
Let me see the little girl.
How old were you then? How old were you then?
Oh, God, I don't know. I guess I was about a year.
No.
2 years? 3 years, probably. 3 years, 3, 4 years old. When I got involved with the feminist movement and found gay women, you know, just much more attractive, I mean, much more independent and attractive. At the same time, my conflict, I formulated the conflict in myself as, yes, I'm attracted to these women, but I'm committed to the anti-imperialist struggle. The left does not understand lesbianism. The world does not understand it. I'm going to isolate myself by identifying myself as a lesbian. And that was the way for a couple of years that I formulated the struggle. I mean, I didn't formulate it in very personal terms, which I only discovered after I came out, which was the isolation of how deeply patriarchy and sexism is a part of every aspect of our life, you know, and that in denying that by accepting by living basically outside of male sexist values, that I was in a sense throwing myself outside the tribe, that feelings of belonging are perhaps the deepest feelings. I mean, you hear it when you read stories about so-called primitive, tribes and communities. The worst thing that can happen to a person is that they're exiled from the tribe. It's as bad as death. It's worse than death. Basically, I've always wanted to belong. I've always felt like an outsider, and I think a lot of that comes from being Jewish and having within my conscious and my unconscious the legacy of the Jews of being always outsiders. So there was always this desire to belong, but in effect, I never really did. So that's, I think, one of the things that made coming out so much more difficult for me was the recognition that I would even put myself much further outside of any community. I mean, I didn't see it as belonging to another community yet. Which is, by the way, the reason I think that a lesbian community is so important, is that we do need to belong. We do need to feel a part of something larger than ourselves or the one or two close friends we have. I mean, I know this summer I was in the country, and living in a space where there are people who I care about, who are in the same small space, so that I can have a daily contact with them. Being in a place where there's plants, where there's nature, where there's water, where there's life other than human beings, where there's space. I mean, space is terribly important. Makes it much more possible to survive. I mean, that's what human beings need. And the city closes us off in little rooms. I mean, here's this apartment that I've been fixing up for, 2 months, and I'm so excited about it. What is it? It's a space of about 250, probably, I mean, I don't know, maybe, 300, 400 square feet. I have no idea. With walls that separates me from other people. And it becomes my little cell, my little refuge from the city. Okay. Here are my shit. I can't stand this job.
We want to thank for the help given to us by Nancy O'Brien, Ann Pearson, Yvonne Klein, Rita Nolan, and Devorah Feldenstein. We also thank Philippe Hallet and Jean-Pierre Guimont of the Media Resource Center of Dawson College. Camera work was done by Norma Bahia. Production and editing by Rita Moreira and myself, Norma Bahia.